Good afternoon to you. Mark Seth with HurricaneTrack.com here Monday now, February the 5th, 2024. On the update today, we'll talk about the atmospheric river event that is impacting California that will impact a good deal of the West overall, and a little bit of an explainer on exactly what that term means. And then we're going to migrate into looking at the upcoming hurricane season. There has been some new data that has come out that is very interesting. We are now less than 4 months away, and no, it is not too early to start looking at some of these patterns, at least the forecasted patterns from some of these computer models. Yes, a lot of data has dropped, putting those puzzle pieces together, and by the time we get to June 1st, hopefully we will have a more complete picture as to what the pattern, the background state will be for the 2024 hurricane season. But today, it's February 5th, and we're still in winter, and we've got a lot to deal with. So let's get started. First, from our friends over at the National Weather Service San Diego, nice tweet this weekend kind of explaining what atmospheric rivers are all about. I'll put a link to this in today's description. I'll click on the infographic briefly. You really should take a look at this. It's a very well defined and easy to understand literal picture with information on it. So yeah, we call it an infographic. All that moisture streaming in off the Pacific. The mountains, the Sierra especially, wrings that moisture out, but you also have coastal ranges, lesser elevated mountains that wrings that moisture out. We call that orographic lift. While this can bring, this phenomenon, a lot of needed moisture to the area, because of us, people, and our infrastructure, it can become very problematic, as we are seeing play out today on social media far and wide. So yeah, check this out. I'll put a link to it in the description of today's video, and you can read all about it, and then you can sound very intelligent at your next party, water cooler meeting, or Zoom call, right? Just trying to help. So here is the real world instead of an infographic. This is what it looks like for real. Kind of looks like a ribbon right there. Hey, see how that's kind of curled up? That's kind of cool looking. Honestly, the weather can be very interesting sometimes, but that's the moisture streaming in for thousands of miles, directed, the core of it right now anyway, to Southern California. And boy, oh boy, some of the imagery coming out of there, all the rainfall totals, they are really getting socked. It's going in across southern Nevada, across Las Vegas, where all the Super Bowl participants have arrived. And look at all the snowpack. You can see that even in Colorado, where they got some heavy snow this weekend. Through the Intermountain West, the Great Basin, the Sierras are going to get a big dump out of this. They have been. Just an incredible piece of energy. There's the upper level energy here, and the surface low tucked in somewhere in there. And all of this is going to spread across the rest of the West over the next couple of days, and you're going to get a lot of moisture from it. But in the meantime, on top of it, a lot of impacts to travel, everything else in between, and you're going to see all the pictures of cars stuck in low water crossings. You know the drill. Us humans, some of us anyway, never seem to learn. Meanwhile, what is this all about? Looks like a dead hurricane or something. No, it's not. It is just a surface low with upper level energy just kind of rotating around down here. Gave us some tornadic thunderstorms yesterday over parts of the deep south, southeast coastal areas, and inland from there. Speaking of Jacksonville, Valdosta vicinity, look like bona fide supercells that you would see in the nation's midsection, and that was happening out in this area, and we'll look at this in more detail in the GFS in just a moment. Look at all of this. This is kind of cool looking. Ground fog. There's more of that over here. Wow, what is going on? Well, the water is cold. The air is warm. There's lots of moisture. And you get this ground fog that's been happening a lot this winter, and it'll probably be persistent over the next several days as well. Also, look at this low pressure sitting up here, and the way it's spinning around, bringing very, very heavy snow to our friends up in Nova Scotia. I was reading about that on social media as well. Many feet of snow across this area. So the weather is definitely doing a number on a number of people. Very impactful right now, despite the lack of deep, penetrating Arctic air. And I know I got a text message from one of our friends from the Outer Banks of North Carolina who's visiting the Caymans. Said his excursions are canceled for tomorrow. I think a big part of that is because this energy here is going to be just kind of sagging south and kind of meandering a little bit. and you're going to get some strong northerly winds. You can even see a little piece of energy has moved through. So yes, even the Caribbean getting in on the action from this little mid-latitude storm system. Looking at the national weather map for the lower 48, active as you would expect out west. There's our fog over here. No mention of, I guess it's more low clouds than fog. What am I talking about back over here? The satellite imagery. Yeah, those are just low clouds, I guess, not necessarily ground fog, but that's okay. Looks like fog to me, but it's not showing up in as any type of advisory, like a dense fog advisory. But those were some pretty darn low clouds. I bet it's pretty dreary all through here if you look up. No sunshine. What is going on with this? Well, we got some coastal flooding issues coming up. The same for the North Carolina Outer Banks, as the overall pattern does favor some pretty stiff northeast winds coming through the region. Again, we'll look at that as well on the GFS as we go forward. Before we do so, I want to show you these tweets here from my friend Greg up at Fox Weather. Very busy out west, 6+ inches, 13 inches since October in LA. Are you kidding me? Yes, the City of Sunshine, I don't know if it's called that. That's what I just said. Not so much lately, but they need it. They need the moisture out there, so that's pretty good that they're getting it. So up to 6.3, and it's certainly more than that now since Greg tweeted this an hour ago. Look at the rain funneling in here on the live radar from Fox Weather. Here it is on my radar scope here in the office. And I'm telling you what, let's put this into motion if it'll go. Thank you very much. Really, really, I mean, there you go. There's your atmospheric river literally streaming in areas like Long Beach, right into downtown Los Angeles, Burbank, Studio City, Hollywood, the Hollywood Hills, elsewhere. You got your mountains in here that starts to block the radar beam. What a mess down through there. It was well advertised. The models picked up on this. We knew about it days and days in advance. And here it is. So you guys be careful out there, all right? Lots of important people out that way. Big commerce area. Everything about it. Millions of folks. What, like 10 million plus people? That's a pretty big deal. And then the wind up in the mountains, that upslope flow, all that moisture, not so much the moisture, but the wind energy hitting those mountains, 162 miles per hour. Wow. You know there's trees down out there. Good friend of mine that I got to meet last year when I went out for one of these atmospheric river events. His name is Ryan, sending me pictures, talking to me over text about the trees that are down, the power outages in Santa Cruz County. This has been a big deal. We expected it to be, we being those of us that follow this stuff and try to warn you good people about it. And here it is. So hang in there. A couple more days to go, and this too shall pass. I can prove it. Here it is on the GFS. There's your stream of moisture. Here's the surface low and remaining upper level energy. You don't necessarily see the upper level energy here, but I know that it's there. Little low pressure area at the surface right off of Charleston. A broader, large gyre of low pressure. High pressure up here, the gradient in between. Gradient, difference in pressure over distance. You got some easterly winds that are going to be coming in, northeast winds, all the way up to the mid-Atlantic too, and that's going to help to pile the water up and create some coastal flooding issues. So let's just watch this as it all streams through. Over the coming days, we've got our storm that really does deepen well offshore, thankfully. Had this been more north and even more north and west, boy, the mid-Atlantic really would have been pounded. But as it is, there it is. There's your funneling of the air coming in. That's that gradient. 1029 millibar high up over southeast Canada. 990s millibar low, a couple thousand miles away or whatever. That's enough of a difference in pressure. You squeeze that air through here. I'll draw a giant arrow. At least I'll try. And that is your area of the most concern. And that does include parts of the mid-Atlantic, New Jersey, Maryland, Delaware as well. All right? Also want to point your attention out west. That atmospheric river event, the overall moisture packet comes in, and you get a lot of snow out there, and the higher elevations rain at the lower. One after the other, these systems dive in with troughing out west. Not much deep troughing in the east. System sliding in to the south, typical of El Nino. Wet, not so cold, no Arctic air anytime soon. Now we're out at almost 10 days. We'll just stop it there. But a pretty active pattern as we continue through the first several days of February. So just keep all that in mind, especially if you're headed out west for anything that's where the most active weather will be. Now, when is it going to change? Well, there are different people talking about changes afoot, seen in the guidance over the next couple of weeks or so. John Castle here talking about some of our most impressive winter storms across the east have come in February and March. That's kind of like September and October would be for hurricane season. Makes sense. Peak time for winter storm activity. Guidance continues to draw an increasingly favorable pattern that could net something special. If you like big-time winter storms, if you don't, you're going to be rooting against this. But the upper-level pattern, this is the ECMWF, the ensembles in the extended range. Pretty solid signal for, look, you got your blocking up here over Greenland and vicinity, helping to drive down colder air into the east, ridging out west. Those are the puzzle pieces. These are the players, the chess pieces, whatever. Now we have to see the pattern is there. Do we get the big winter storms? And that is very similar to what we look for in hurricane season as well. Is the pattern there? And then do we get all the hurricanes? Which is a good way to segue to this. All right. Hurricane season, yes, more or less 4 months away, something like that. But this is one of the big drivers, sea surface temperatures and the anomalies. As you can see, we've got our El Nino here in the Pacific, but it is gradually diminishing already. It's already happening. In the meantime, we've got a pretty warm Atlantic overall still. In fact, record territory even in February. The main development region almost 1 degree Celsius above average even in the month of February. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you spread that energy out over such a vast area, that is a lot more water vapor, a lot more upper level energy from the upper levels of the ocean anyway. Upper level heat content is what I should say. I mean, look, let's just draw a box through here. Let's use black to make it pop. You think about the main development region, basically right through here is generally what's considered the MDR. And pretty much all of it running close to 1 degree Celsius warmer than average. That's just a lot more energy that is available. Meantime, we're starting to erode this. We're losing the El Nino overall, and I can show you that over here on the subsurface data. Right in front of our eyes, we are chiseling away all that warm subsurface, positive anomaly. Look at it. It's turning blue. This is over time, ending on January 28th. You bet the El Nino is on its way out. And we can see that reflected in all kinds of data. So here's the CANSIPS. This is a Canadian. I've talked about this before. This was issued just recently. And I think I'm still on the color black here to make everything pop. Here we are currently. There is our warm INSO event. Here is our current warm pattern in the Atlantic. Let's look at this as we go out into time. All right, this is March, April, May, June, July, August, September. We developed a full La Nina across the Pacific, and then the Atlantic is very warm right where it needs to be. That is the pattern. You look for the pattern first. Then you see, do the storms come? Or you ask, do the storms come? And historically, you look also, I was explaining this to my wife the other day about how all this works. You go back and you look at other hurricane seasons, analogs. What did it take to give us a very busy 2005, 2020, 1933, 2017, 04, whatever? And do these match in any kind of way? And what are the common correlations in these? Well, the La Nina is a big one. You take all that heat energy out of the Pacific, and then the warm Atlantic relative to average, and especially when the Atlantic can dominate over the Pacific for the upward motion. And the climate models, pretty much all of them, are still seeing this. They saw this all the way back in the fall and now into the early to mid part of winter, and we're continuing that look overall probably as we head to spring. So that's what it looks like from a temperature perspective. What about the precip and the moisture? So looking at that just for September as an example, a very active pattern in the deep tropics aimed into the Caribbean, some tracks out to sea here, the opposite of what we saw last year, where a lot of this was concentrated over here, well to the east of the United States. Everything to the west was typically drier, and it came to pass. It did pretty good, these climate models. All right? So in case you're wondering, well, that's just the CANSIPs. What about the euro? It's king. Well, it is doing really well. It is king of general, upper pattern recognition and stuff like that. There are statistics to prove this. The GFS kind of falling behind. So you ask about the euro. The euro information came out today. A couple people mentioning this to me privately on Twitter. One person even, added me, as they said, because this is very not said. I get too worked up. I was notified on Twitter of this because today's the day it comes out, right? What is this? This is the European version of what I just showed you of the CANSIPs. So the ECMWF climate model for June, July, August. All right, so it gets us out just at the beginning of the peak of season, and it is a very similar story to the CANSIPs. La Nina developing in the Pacific, possibly, and a very warm Atlantic overall. Again, you go back, you look at what gave us busy seasons in the past, and it's that. That's what does it. And the precip anomaly pattern looks very similar. Above normal all through this area. That's the deep tropics aimed towards the west, and a drier Central Pacific, Eastern Pacific, as you would expect in a La Nina. Furthermore, you can look at it from a plot perspective. Andrew Moore on the latest ECMWF modeling just released, starting with INSO. He's looking at everything. This is the 3.4 region. Down it goes. 50-something ensemble members, all of them for the most part, except that one straggler there, indicating a decline towards neutral, maybe even La Nina. The different regions of the INSO. By the way, what am I talking about when I say that? The El Nino Southern Oscillation regions are divided up. You've got 1 and 2 sitting over here, something like that. You got your 3, your 3, 4. It's kind of like a Venn diagram. It's the best way to describe it. I've got a graphic. I just didn't have it queued up. My apologies. Let's do that for next Monday. But that's what that means, that Nino 3, 3, 4, 4, whatever. That's what Andrew's talking about here with some of these different plumes. This is the Nino 3 area. Down it goes. And then the Nino 4, not as dramatic, but still down. So Pacific cooling, Atlantic staying warm and getting warmer. And this is important too. I thought this was really interesting. Andrew says, look at the overall global anomalies from June through August, and we see a cool equatorial tongue in the Pacific, and then some more than degrees Celsius anomalies in the Atlantic main development region, right? That's all through here. There's your cool tongue in the Pacific. Very, very important, but I think more importantly, in the overall pattern, a lot of the Earth's ocean likely to be in the warmest 20% historically, and that is this one. Look at all those positive anomalies against the climatology there. Wow. So that's a lot of extra water vapor, a lot of extra energy, and a very warm planet overall going into the summer of 2024. Global precipitation patterns, zooming in on it, very pronounced here in the Atlantic Basin, not so much in the equatorial Pacific. You better check your insurance. I'm serious. I'm not going to just put this out there and then leave you hanging. We're going to talk a lot more about preparedness this year than I think we've done in a long time, especially as we get into March. Why March? Because we got 90 days from March 1st, roughly. And it's important to drop this information, but then talk about actions you can take. I don't like it when people just throw stuff up, get a lot of attention, and then let it go. What can we do about it? There's people that have moved to the coast that have no clue. And I think we can help in that regard as well. All right, so look forward to that coming up. We got this important information. I said it's a gift. I've mentioned that for years and years. Look at this as a positive. We know it could be coming. Now it's up to us to be smart and do something about it. All right? Before I let you go, I'm proud to announce, finally, actually I finished this over the summer. I just forgot to make it public. That's okay. I do documentaries, and I've been doing them all the way since 2004. The Tracking the Hurricane series recently in the last few years, 4 years now, started a new series where they are episodic instead of like a long movie almost. And it's called The Hurricane Highway. We're up to season 2. It's going to be 10 episodes. I'm finally through episode 8. Actually, I finished it over the summer, as I mentioned. And it's all about Hurricane Delta. And after I make today's video public, I will go in and make this public. And it'll be available for you to watch, supported by our crowdfunding group through Patreon and all the people that help on the back end. Nice thumbnail image there, yeah? That's down in Louisiana in the hours after Hurricane Delta, way back in October of 2020. I'm working through these. Zeta is next, followed by Eta. So we'll have 10 episodes for Season 2. Season 3 will cover 2021. You know, it takes time, especially when you do these by yourself and other stuff in life gets in the way. Work, family, whatever. It's all good. As long as I get these done and get them out there for posterity, I'm happy. But I'm very happy to make this one available later today. Check it out. Got some great interviews from some awesome people that live in the area. And I'm proud to do these documentaries, even as difficult as they are to put together. Actually, I put them together right here on this computer using all sorts of cool tools. So check it out when you get a chance, all right? And the rest of the series, The Hurricane Highway. Ongoing. Millions of miles to go, it seems. All right, you guys have a great rest of your Monday. As always, thanks for tuning in and giving me a part of your day. Don't forget, we are on the YouTube. That's probably where most of you are watching this, so subscribe if you would, and you'll get notified when we put extra videos up in the future, additional whatever. And I'm on Twitter, at HurricaneTrack. And yes, I know it's called something else, but to me it's always Twitter. And, of course, we are on Patreon, and you can join for free. And then when you're in the position or you want to support us financially, you can. You don't have to go back and forth. You can just do it, and then you can pause your subscription or whatever you want to call it, your support, your investment. That's the better word. So, yeah, we are on Patreon. And you'll see at the beginning of the Hurricane Highway, it says, crowdfunded by Patreon. What a great crowd we have. All right, again, you guys have a great rest of the week ahead. I'm Mark Suttle from all of us at Hurricane Track. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you again in a week.